Hey there, it's Lance.
And Sam.
And we are Love to Hate.
And today we're taking a look at Mindbug by Nerdlab Games.
Mindbug is a card game for 2 players. It's coming to Kickstarter here in the near future, so be on the lookout for that. Check out the Kickstarter campaign link down below in the description of this video. But as I said, this is a card game for 2 players in which you're going to be battling it out. Choosing whether or not to mind bug your opponent's creatures, taking control of them. You want to do this strategically, as you're only allowed to do it twice per game, and the timing of when you do that can determine everything in this game. There's lots of different abilities and ways that this game twists and turns. Let's take a look at it down below, and then we'll come back and share our thoughts on this as a gamer and non-gamer. All right, here's Mindbug First Contact on the table. Let me show you guys how this 2-player card game works. And I do want to make you aware that everything you see here is prototype. The final artwork and components may look different when it is released from the Kickstarter. That being said, you're going to have a setup similar to what you see here on the board, and that each player are going to receive 2 Mindbug cards, 3 life point cards, and a deck of 10 cards that come from the deck of common cards. And each player is going to have that on their side of the board here. Ignore what you see right here. We'll come back to that here in just a second. Anyhow, how this game works, each player is going to draw 5 cards off the top of their draw pile deck here, and you're going to play a card and then attack with one of your creatures against the other player. Now, to determine who gets to go first, each player is going to randomly reveal a creature here, and whoever has the higher number in the top left corner here is going to get to go first. And the deck of cards that you aren't playing with, you can just set those aside for the rest of the game. So you're going to have 5 cards in hand, and I'll go ahead and show you what these cards could look like. And there's going to be a number of things that you are going to be paying attention to. Probably one of the most important is the number in the top left corner, and that is your attack/defense value. That is going to be what you are going to be comparing whenever you block your opponent's attacking creature or vice versa. Whoever's the higher number in that comparison is going to defeat the other one that is lower, unless there's something down here that is going to shake that up. And that is the next important part of a card that you want to pay attention to. So let's come over here and let me show you the different things that you are going to find on these cards. So there are going to be 5 different keywords that you will have in this game. There is sneaky, and what sneaky is sneaky creatures can only be blocked by sneaky creatures. And so if your opponent has a sneaky creature, you better have one as well, otherwise you aren't going to be able to block that attack from that creature. Frenzy creatures are going to do 2 attacks at once, and so they'll attack once, and if they are still alive, then they're going to attack again. Hunter creatures, when you attack with a hunter, you get to pick which of your opponent's creatures block this creature's attack. So it's a way to kind of kill off some of your opponent's lesser creatures. And then you have tough. And so tough creatures basically have 2 lives. Whenever you were to block one of your opponent's attacks with a tough creature, if they were to lose, they're not eliminated. Instead, you kind of tap them to indicate that they've been exhausted, and you get to use them again to block, and if they were to die at that point, then you would eliminate them. So they get like 2 lives. Then you also have poisonous creatures. Now, poisonous creatures, they are going to defeat the other creature that blocks them regardless if their number is higher or lower. And so in this event, if you were to attack and the opponent, let's say the opponent has a 2, for instance. 2 typically would defeat a 1, but because it's poisonous, they would both be defeated and taken off the board. Those are your keywords. You also have some trigger words that you need to be aware of. Whenever you play a card that has a play trigger on it, you get to do that benefit. Whenever you attack with an attack trigger, you get the benefit. And whenever you use a creature to block and is defeated and has the defeated trigger word, then you get to do that ability. So there are 3 trigger abilities and 5 keywords on the creature cards here. So In more detail, how this game works, you have a set of 5 cards in hand. You're not going to be showing these to your opponent. You're going to choose one to play, activating any kind of triggers or abilities, such as when I play this card, the opponent would have to discard 2 cards. And then from one of your creatures that you have out on the table, you're going to attack the other player. So let's pretend that I had these 2 creatures out here. I would choose one to attack. If my opponent has no creatures to block, then they're going to lose a life point. If they did have creatures to block, let's say it's these 2 right here, they would pick one of those creatures to block my attacking creature. So if I attacked with the hunter here, they could choose to block with one of these 2. Again, keeping in mind that the lower of the 2 numbers is going to be eliminated unless there's poisonous, in which case, then they're both going to be eliminated in this case, because 5 is greater than 3, but the 3 spider owl here is poisonous, and that would also defeat the number 5 urchin, what is this, hurler. And again, sneaky creatures can only be blocked by other sneaky creatures. So there's a lot of things going on here back and forth. I did forget to tell you about the Mindbug. Now, the Mindbug is the most important concept in all of this game because whenever you play a creature, your opponent gets to decide whether they want to use one of their Mindbugs. So, for instance, my opponent says, I'm going to be playing this number 7 Giraffodil. And if I don't want my opponent to have that creature, I can spend one of my Mindbugs, flipping it over to indicate that it's been used, and I gain that creature, and I get to do the ability that's on the bottom here. So I would get to draw my discard pile. It's pretty nice because when your 10 card deck runs out, you have no more cards. So you want to have something to kind of give you more cards to keep playing. But keep in mind, whenever you play a creature, your opponent can use one of their Mindbug cards to take that creature from you. That's especially important whenever you are trying to discard opponent's cards, or if you're trying to cause them to lose life points. There's all sorts of different player abilities on all of these different creatures. There's so many of them in the game, and a lot of them do a lot of crazy things that really shake a game up. Very swingy. And so it's very important to know when to play your Mindbugs at the right time. You battle back and forth until someone loses their final life point, in which case you have a winner, and that is how you play Mindbug First Contact. Let's go back up top and share our thoughts on this one. All right, we're back, and now we're going to share our thoughts on Mindbug as a gamer and non-gamer. So Sam, you as the non-gamer, your first impression of a game is very important. It can determine kind of how you feel going into it and how much you want to play that particular game. So what were your first impressions with Mindbug?
I mean, it's a card game, so that's pretty obvious. And a lot of times card games are pretty simple, usually pretty quick. So that is something that I personally look for in a game.
Yeah, and with that being the case, especially so with this game, in that there's not a whole lot of cards on the table that you're playing through. You do have a pretty thick stack, but you're only working with a small number of those cards each time you play, which means you're not going to see a lot of cards in this game when you play it. And you're never quite sure exactly which cards you'll have or which cards your opponent's going to have. So I would imagine that this is not an intimidating game when looking at it on the table, and it seems pretty easy to come by and understand what's going on. Sam, let me ask you about the rules with this game. Was it difficult or easy to understand exactly what you were trying to accomplish and how to go about doing that?
It was a little confusing when you're talking about the numbers versus if you're mind bugging it or not, versus the description of that particular character. Are you going to attack? Are you going to defend? It took at least a whole game playthrough to understand when you use which aspect of the card.
Yeah, I will agree with that. The keywords and the trigger abilities on the cards are what cause this game to be a little more complex than just a simple card game. I won't say that it's a overly complicated thing. You only have about 4 or 5 different keywords and 3 different trigger abilities, so it's not a ton to keep up with. But I will say that it's those keywords and trigger abilities that really set this game apart from other card games. When those different abilities trigger and the different keywords for those creatures mean all the difference in whether you're going to mind bug them or not mind bug them, and how they'll play into your overall strategy for that game. It's really where this game shines, in my opinion, and what makes it a fun game. Sam, you mentioned that it takes about a full gameplay to really kind of wrap your mind around that, and I'll agree with that, because on the surface you look at this and you're just kind of comparing numbers, is what it looks like on the surface. You know, my 5 beats your 4 kind of thing. But then you throw in those different player abilities and when they trigger, and then if your opponent's gonna steal that creature from you with a mind bug, and then you're turning it all around back on you, that's a lot to think about as you're choosing which creature to play each time. And the game completely goes in different directions depending upon whether your opponent does choose to mind bug. Your strategy switches at that point, and you really have to kind of weigh that in as you're choosing which creature to play each turn. So Sam, let me ask you, you said that the strategy is not too difficult to figure out what you're trying to accomplish. Is it fun trying to figure out how to go about getting those points and trying to keep yourself from being attacked? Was this a fun experience for you?
Yeah, I thought it was fun. I think it would be a fairly easy thing for any non-gamer to figure out. And it says 8+, and I think that's probably about right with a little bit of help from the gamer.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's one you can play with your kids. 15 to 25 minutes on the box is what it says. And I think that's pretty accurate, although I have played some games where the games are very quick and they can be over in less than 10 minutes. I don't think it will go any longer than 25 minutes. So this is a short, maybe filler type game, one that you can obviously pick up with you and take wherever you need to go. Good travel game with this one. Doesn't take up a whole lot of room, as you saw in that rules portion of the video. And so I think this is a very unique experience with card game. And I think this is one that I'd be interested to see new creatures that they develop as they continue to expand upon this whole system of gaming. So thumbs up for Mindbug, one that you would recommend playing with non-gamers?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's a great game. Go check it out. Check out that Kickstarter campaign link down below in the description of this video.
Make sure to like and subscribe and push that bell button so you get notifications of all our new content.
I'm Lance.
I'm Sam.
And we are Love to Hate, where we try to bridge the gap between gamers and non-gamers. We'll catch you next time.